So the fifth chapter of your IGCSE Edexcel biology syllabus is known as biological molecules. अब ये biological molecules consist of four parts. We have carbohydrates, we have proteins, lipids. ठीक है, इसके अंदर आपको सारे वो हम लोग कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स के डिफरेंट टाइप डिस्कस करेंगे. शुगर, सिंपल शुगर्स, डाइसैकेराइड्स, पॉलीसैकेराइड्स. प्रोटीन्स के अंदर अमाइनो एसिड्स आ जाएंगे, उनकी डिटेल पढ़ेंगे. पॉलीपेप्टाइड, ठीक है, फंक्शंस ऑफ प्रोटीन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. देन वी हैव लिपिड्स, फैट्स, ट्राइग्लिसराइड्स. भी हम other than that, water is also one of your biological molecules. Another important thing in this chapter would be your food tests. जो हम टेस्ट फॉर शुगर्स करते हैं, टेस्ट फॉर स्टार्च, टेस्ट फॉर प्रोटीन्स, टेस्ट फॉर फैट्स, लिपिड्स, वो सारा हम किसमें करेंगे? इन चैप्टर नंबर 5 ऑफ Edexcel IGCSE syllabus, which is biological molecules. Now, in biological molecules, we have carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. Most of the molecules in the living organisms fall into three categories. वो हैं कौन कौन सी? Number 1, carbohydrates. Number 2, we have proteins. And number 3, we have lipids. तो ये आपको तीन categories हैं of biological molecules. Now, these all contain carbon and so are described as organic molecules. For example, carbohydrate consists of carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Protein consists of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and an additional one, nitrogen as well, which is not present in carbohydrate, and also contains some small amounts of other elements such as sulfur. जब इसके अंदर sulfur होता है, we also call that bond as cysteine. Then we have lipids. Lipids contain carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Now, one of the common thing that you can notice over here that all these three, जो आपके सामने तीन biological molecules हैं, all of them contain carbon. All of them contain oxygen, and also hydrogen is present in all three of those as well. Only one difference is of nitrogen, which is present in proteins. Now, if we talk about the structure of carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, well, carbohydrates, you should know that basic unit of all carbohydrates are simple sugars. For example, a very common example of a sugar is glucose, which is a simple sugar, a monosaccharide. A monosaccharide का क्या मतलब होता है? Monosaccharide means which contain only a single carbon ring. Which contain only a single carbon ring. इनके पास सिर्फ एक ring होता है of carbon. Because when carbon bond together, they make these rings. अगर आप यहाँ पे देखें, if you can notice in this picture, we have these rings present. These rings, if these are a single ring, वो हम उसको कहते हैं simple sugar, a monosaccharide. When they have a double ring structure, we call them disaccharide. या जब दो glucose molecules combine करते हैं, we call them disaccharide. And when lots of those rings and glucose molecules join together, we call them disaccharide. So monosaccharide means two glucose molecules. For example, if two simple sugars join together, or if two monosaccharides join together, they would form a disaccharide made of two glucose molecules. And if two or more, if more than two join together, they make up a polysaccharide. For example, अगर मैं बात करूं, I have an example of glucose. Now, glucose itself is a monosaccharide. When it's going to combine with another glucose, it's going to make maltose. And maltose is a disaccharide. ये monosaccharide था. This is also monosaccharide. Both these monosaccharide simple sugars join together to form a disaccharide, which is maltose. And more of these glucose molecules, let's say more than two, join together to form glycogen or starch, which is a polysaccharide. So this is an example of starch. We have how many glucose molecules? One glucose molecule, second glucose molecule, and a third glucose molecule. When these three glucose molecules join together, they form starch molecule. इसी तरह I told you in the previous chapter that when we talk about starch and glycogen, these are very famous. Both of these are famous storage molecules. ये क्या है? They are both storage molecules. जैसे कि carbohydrates के अंदर हम जब बात करते हैं glycogen की. Now, sugars are stored in the form of glycogen in animals, and sugars are stored in the form of starch when we talk about plants. Plants में starch is the storage molecule. In animals, glycogen is the storage molecule. Both starch and glycogen, both of these are polysaccharides, और ये glucose की ही macromolecules होते हैं. So in front of you, you can see this long chain structure of a molecule known as starch, a polysaccharide carbohydrate.